I know we are live. I'm just letting everyone get in. I've done some moving around the room, so I may have to adjust the location of some items a bit. Let's see. So that is good there. Stream Deck over here. There we go. So it begins, yes. So it begins. The end. The beginning, the end. So yeah, we're taking apart a Vzero tonight. Zoom out, zoom in, zoom out. Yeah, that works. Good enough. What changed my mind? People kept bugging me to do a Vzero build, and the problem is, as you can see, I have a Vzero. It is built, and I have no plans to build a second one because I'm busy with some other projects right now. So why would I rebuild it? Well, the wiring isn't really the greatest. It's actually running some pre-final revision parts. A lot of these parts were printed on when this was still a 2.2. And it had a cracked Mobius 3 that I didn't know, so the print quality isn't exactly the greatest. There's some M3 nuts missing in some locations, so I can't actually properly finish it as well without taking apart the frame. And people kept asking for it, so you know what? Screw it. I'm going to take it fully apart this week. And then starting next week, we are going to do a full by-the-manual build of a Vzero. So right now, tonight's goal is to strip this apart. And I am actually this time going right down to a bare frame, completely taken apart. So I'm going to show you how to square up a frame as well. So I've got all the new parts printed. We're going with black and orange. And I've got some of the parts that I am replacing. I am sticking with the E3D V6 clone for the hot end. I'm not putting the Dragon in. With shipping times from China, getting a Dragon right now will take several months. And the one I was going to put in this is currently in use. So first things first, I guess, get the panels off. Now, I'm not going to sort all the screws out tonight because I'm sure you guys don't want to watch me sort all the screws out, so I'm just going to throw everything in a bin and go through it after that. Yeah, RCF was bored and wanted something to watch, so he asked me to stream. So that's why I'm streaming. And general Voron QA. If anyone has any questions about anything, go ahead. But tonight is just taking apart a Voron. It's kind of sad, but I actually don't really use this guy as much, anywhere near as much as the other ones. This I built as my backup printer, but now I got one fully functional, one that I'm still waiting on the mag plate for Tallboy. So Tallboy nothing has changed on Tallboy since the last stream. That's kind of why I haven't streamed in a bit. I've been stuck waiting on stuff from China to properly finish it. So that's why there's no first step, Voron, hey, I just built it, tuning guide has been done yet because I want to do it on Tallboy and I don't want to do it until it's actually done. So I need the flex plate for that, which hasn't arrived yet, among some other stuff I'm waiting on for other stuff. Okay, and that's another thing. My panels are actually slightly undersized, so I don't know if I'm actually going to hunt down some acrylic or plexiglass, because that stuff is stupidly overpriced right now with Rona. And the fact that I live in Canada, so tap plastics isn't exactly cheap. So I might be going with some Dibond panels here. We'll see. See how it goes. So what I'm going to do first is, let's see, what kind of angle can I get with this? Ooh, hello. We're going to start unhooking electronics. Oh, I got to take this off. So we're going to start by unhooking the electronics. Andrew, I ordered my Dragon, the one that's currently occupied. I ordered it mid-January. It showed up mid to end of March, I believe. So some of this I am going to reuse. Like, I'm going to try and reuse, wires, and, if the micro switch already has a wire run to it, I'm going to reuse it. But some stuff I'm going to just straight up replace. So yeah, if all goes well, because this time I'll be following a manual, hopefully the build shouldn't take too long. I won't cover wiring. I won't do wiring on stream. I won't do like the really boring stuff. Because the Tallboy build took, I think 7 or 8 streams before it got printing. And I don't want to spend 2 months building a V0, because this should not take 2 months to build a V0. It's a really simple build, but you have to follow the order of operations. And if you don't, you are going to be in for some fun. Especially with captive T-nuts. Here, I think that comes off now. There we go. So yeah, if you didn't know, the tool head on a V0, it's really just 4 screws to attach it to the rail, and then 2 screws to attach it to your belts. So you can actually remove the tool head and not have to worry about undoing your belts. So if you really wanted to, you could have multiple tool heads with quick connects. I would personally put the quick connects back here, like back over here, instead of having them on the tool head, like how we have it on the V2 and V1. But you could do semi-reasonable swapping of tool heads on a V0 if you were inclined to do that. In this case, I don't plan on swapping tool heads, so I'm not going to do that. Yep, RCF is here. Yes, no post assembly. You got to put all your nuts in before you finish putting the frame together, or you're going to have a bad day. That was one of the worst parts of working on the development of this thing, was like, oh hey, we changed one part, strip apart the entire printer just to put more T-nuts or M3 nuts in. Yeah, I would put the dragon in this, but it's being used. So I'm going to just stick with the V6 for now. I haven't had any issues with it. The only downside is I can't do one-handed nozzle changes. And I need to run the fan a little bit louder. So it's functionally fine. I do miss rigid mount though. So what do we got here? Take this guy off. Okay, so I'm going to save this guy because why make another one? Oh, that's what I forgot. I forgot to fully take out the filament. So I'm going to have to remember to do that when I put this thing back together. Oh, wait, no, I did. Or is it broken? Oh, no, I did. Yeah, we're good. We're good. So, as you can see, I have all the connections here are they're soldered. So, okay, tool heads off. I'm going to rewire it anyways. As these fans are actually all 12 volt, and I'm running through a buck converter because it's a 24 volt power supply. So I actually have 24 volt fans now that I'm going to use for the rebuild, so I don't need to use a buck converter anymore. Manual for what, Dark Knighto, needing an update? Because there really hasn't been any changes to my knowledge to this thing since release. Probe need a shield to protect from heat captain tape. I'm not sure what you're referring to, Mansu. Yes, Jason, this thing is coming completely apart, and I'm building basically another one from scratch. So I got all new printed parts. I'm reusing most of the hardware, obviously, but I'm doing a full rebuild. So this guy's coming completely apart. What are the plans for this printer, Jessica? Personally, for me, the Vzero is my backup printer, or if I have to like print something really quick and my main printer's being used. But now the fact I got two V2s online, it's mostly just backup and just something to tinker with. Okay, save that. Okay, so hot ends out. I'm actually going to save the heater cartridge, but the thermistor I am replacing. And oh yeah, this is actually a custom heater block. I machined this myself. I was bored one day at work, so I'll get that out another day. It's made out of Amco. It's a aluminum. Well, it's a brass-based aluminum alloy. So it's denser than brass, or I don't know. I can't remember what the exact properties were, but I was just playing around. It works better than an aluminum heat block, that's for sure. Okay. Dark Knighto, if you go to the Voron Discord, there's a whole section on proper settings to use. As for using what settings to print Voron's parts, there's no real guide because we can't really write a guide for every single printer. Because even among Vorons, we tune our printers for what we're printing and how they behave individually, right? A bigger printer will print differently than a smaller. A bed flinger will print differently than a Delta. So we can't really say, oh, this is how you should print your Voron parts. We do recommend certain settings to use, such as how many walls, infill, and materials to use ABS. But we can't actually you should be using these exact settings to print your Voron parts. So, fortunately, there's just too many variables to go into detail. Any plans on getting back into PIF? Unfortunately, not at this time. I'm kind of busy with personal life, social life, that kind of stuff, work. When I was doing PIF, my little guy was only a couple months old, so he just kind of slept and pooped. So I don't have as much free time as I used to anymore. That's why it took me 2 months to build a V2. When I used to be able to do them in a weekend. Jessica, what kind of main board? I am using an SKR Mini E3 version 1.2. That is the spec, although I think we moved to the V2.0. But it's basically the same board. Okay, so I gotta take off that guy. Dark Knighto, that stuff I believe is covered. I'm not sure if it's in the manual, but it's pinned right at the top of the Voron Discord. And I believe it is covered what print settings to use. I'm pretty sure it's in the V0 manual. I know it's in the V2, or one of the V2 revision manuals. I don't know where that screw went. Oh, there it is. And we got that guy there, so... Let's see. That's for the buck converter, so the buck converter could come out. Don't need that. Oh, and that's another reason my pocket watch is kind of an old revision and it isn't the greatest. So that's another reason why this is getting rebuilt. I got parts for a new pocket watch. Yeah, Jason, that's the point of the manual. We actually, if metrics are to be believed, and from the requests for different communities in the Discord, there's quite a few international and non-English speakers We like to build Vorons, so the manuals are specifically meant to be like an IKEA manual, where it's mostly pictographs. So you can pretty much figure out how to build it without actually needing a written instructions, because translating would be kind of a pain. Okay, so let me take out the pocket watch. Well, for detailed instructions, starting next weekend, I'm going to be live streaming the whole build of this thing. So, if you're a visual learner, make sure you tune in for those. Don't forget to subscribe so you'll be notified when I go live. But that should help with the build, because then you can just build along with me or watch them later. And if you have any questions, go ahead. Pocket watch. Okay, I gotta unplug this one. I really don't like these JSTs. Molex KK is superior to JST. I will fight anyone who disagrees with that. Yeah, there's actually a surprisingly large Voron community in China that we didn't even know about because of the Great Firewall. So they can't really interact with us. But there's actually a pretty large community over there. RPI. You can use any Raspberry Pi pretty much for one of these. If you're running Mainsail, you can get by with a Pi Zero. And I'm just using a cheap little... I got a cheap little buck that I use to power it. I wouldn't personally go with the little cheap buck like that. I've had some issues with it undervolting, not being able to provide the amps. But I was just trying. There we go. Yes, smash that subscribe button. I'm actually coming up on 3,000 subscribers, which is something I never thought I'd get to. My channel is like, I don't know, I created in 2006, so that's the amount of growth is surprising, and I appreciate it. So I do take the time to try and read and reply to any questions that I get. How did I attach? Oh, that's double-sided tape. Come on. There we go. Spiral wrap is your friend. Go on AliExpress and buy like several meters of this cheap spiral wrap. It's amazing for just cable management. Makes it look so much neater. Just cut and go. Spiral wrap, zip ties, and stick-on zip tie holders. Okay. That's a buck converter out. If you have a duet, you do need the Pi. Well, here's the thing. The Vorons are Core XY printers, so theoretically, as long as you have the right number of drivers, you can use Marlin, Clipper, Duet, RepRap firmware. Now with a V2, you're pretty much limited. Well, now they have the GTR board, but for the longest time you were limited to pretty much rep wrap firmware or Clipper, because there was like one board maybe for Marlin that supported the number of drivers you needed. But for this guy, you can run any firmware you want. If you want to run Clipper though, you do need a Raspberry Pi. If you do want to run rep wrap firmware, you can just throw a Duet or a Maestro in here. I would not bother putting a Duet 3 in one of these, or really any printer. It's not really needed. Now, you can actually use a Duet with Clipper. You just need a Raspberry Pi. And even a Pi Zero will work with Mainsail. If you're trying to run Octoprint, you do want a Pi 3 or better, in my opinion. But if you're running Clipper with Mainsail, you can get by with a Pi Zero. You just need a USB hub for like cameras and whatnot, because it's only got the one USB port, unfortunately. Yeah, the Duet, like the thing is with Clipper and a pair of ramps, we were matching Duet for performance on the V2. So if you can match a Duet and a Duex combined for performance with ramps, why would you bother? Now, don't get me wrong, Duet is good hardware. 26 here is still running a Duet because if it ain't broke. But personally, I wouldn't go buy one. Unless you already had one. If you have one, use it. It's still good hardware. But that's just me. Yeah, Duet Maestro will work in one of these perfectly. Okay, so unplug everything. Is it labeled? Yes. Come on. I hate JSTs. I'm not a fan of this connection. There we go. Okay, so that one goes there. Okay. Yeah, Mainsail. I actually don't have a printer that's running Mainsail yet. This guy, I will install Mainsail, and I will go over how to install it, because I got to figure out how to do that too. It is getting easier. It's being simplified for sure, the installation process. One day I will put Clipper on 26, and same with Tallboy. That should get Mainsail, because it's already running Clipper. Yeah, it's still under dev. But it's fully usable, just feature lacking at this point for the most part. Okay, so that's bed stuff, so I can go over there. What is... Oh, that was a fan. Okay. So let's see here. Oh yeah, all this came out. So I can reuse that limit. I reuse that limit. And these wires, reuse that limit. These wires are garbage. Save the connectors. Yes, Wexo. So Mainsail replaces the need for Octoprint, because the thing is, Clipper doesn't really need Octoprint, but you do need a way of communicating or whatever it is. I'm not a big programming guy, so I'm going to butcher the term. So basically, you just need an interface because Clipper doesn't have one. So by using Octoprint, you can, or Mainsail, you skip needing Octoprint. And not Octoprint, while good, like a lot of people like it, is pretty heavy and bloated for simple control interface. So Mainsail is sort of like Duet Web Control is for Prepline firmware, where it's like just a simplified communicate with the printer interface. And I think it does support camera, because that's one of the big problems I never liked with Duet Web Control is you couldn't just connect a camera. Like this guy, it's running Duet. I have a Raspberry Pi Zero just sitting up top, running Octoprint just to control a webcam. Because, yeah, that's the easiest way for me to set it up. Hello, Alberto. Yeah, somebody explained to me, it's like Octoprint is running fully on the Raspberry Pi, so it has to use the Raspberry Pi for all the thinky think parts. Whereas Mainsail is pretty much offloading all the thinky think stuff to your quad core computer or smartphone that is a lot smarter than a Raspberry Pi. That's why it's quicker. Plus, it's a lighter weight. I don't know if that's a good analogy. I just read that in the Discord. Yeah, running Mainsail, if you don't want to plug anything into your printer and just run it like headless with no cam, using a Pi 3 is overkill compared to a Pi 0. Because you'll use more power and you're spending more money for really no performance difference. The only reason I would use a Pi 3 or 4 is simply more USB built in, so you can plug a webcam in right away, unless you use a Pi 0 and use a ribbon cable, and Ethernet. Some people like Ethernet. Motor cables, save these. I hate JST. Trying to pull up. I don't like the way these things lock in. Come on. There we go. Okay, save the motor cables. And yeah, there is a bit of a delay. I pushed the wrong setting, so I don't think it's running on the slower delay option. So this is the SSR. If you're running an external power brick, which some people are, you get a 160 watt power brick. It's pretty much the same power brick the Prusa Mini uses, and you get a direct current bed. You can run this in just off a power brick. You don't need an SSR, but if you want to run it with the internal 100 watt power supply, you do need an SSR to run a bed, because 100 watts ain't gonna run a bed and a hot end. But it's a really little SSR, and you just kind of strap it to the side of the power supply. So we're not using the big chonky Omrons. Okay, let's finish removing the rest of the electronics here. I should take this back panel off. I would save it, but it's got this, the original design for the pocket watch mounted to the side. So we have this dumb little cutout here in the back panel, which doesn't exist anymore with the new design of the pocket watch. So I'm gonna need a new back panel because I don't want to look at a hole. What is Mainsail? Mainsail is basically a standalone interface for Clipper. People have spent more time with it, can elaborate on it further, but basically it makes it so you can avoid using Octoprint. Go. Okay, gonna reuse that end stop. Tempered glass on a Vzero. Make it heavy and expensive. Plus, you'd have to figure out a way of mounting it, because you could use the regular mounts, just thicken them up for the thickness, but if you want to. I'm probably going to use Coroplast, because I'm cheap. And yes, all the parts that I'm taking off this that are printed are going in the garbage. I got a whole new set of parts I'm reusing, or I'm using. Okay, let's get the electronics out of here. So, actually, let's see if I can, no, I won't be able to. Crud, I have the bed. Let's see if I can get around the bed. Otherwise, I may have to take the bed off before I do this. So, for mounting the electronics, namely the power supply and the SKR Mini E3, I have an ABS panel on the bottom here that's held in the extrusions. And I simply drilled some holes through it and strapped everything to the plate. Simple, and it works. There's really not a lot of weight on it. It's not like it's banging around or anything. Any thoughts of auctioning off for charity? Oh my god. I don't think they'd be worth anything. They're not printed the greatest. And I'm not sure many people would want them. And shipping in Canada makes anything small not worth shipping. Why can't I get that screw up? Oh, okay, that's why. Did I strip a screw? Let me see here. What are you screwing to? Why aren't you? Oh, that's why I got a nut there. Come on. There we go. Okay, power supply's out. The back panel on this is printed. I just took the file for it and made it 3mm thick. And actually, I might have designed this one. It might have been that early in the dev cycle. But yeah, a bunch of I just printed the back panel. I got these little guys. You know what, I'm going to take the SKR and after the bed's out. It's going to be easier. And another fun thing about this, as you're taking it apart, you're going to have M3 nuts falling everywhere. Because once you unscrew something, they're just floating in there. Okay, let's take it apart. Have you seen the clone version? Big trick I've done it of the Prusa mainboard, the Einzi. It's 8-bit. It's using 2130s. I'm not. It's outdated. I wouldn't bother. If it's the clone of like the Einzi board, I wouldn't personally bother with it. I would just get an SKR. SKR, some 2209s, and you're good. I'm not looking forward to taking this frame apart and having to put it all back together with all the nuts in the right place. Okay, extrusion's out. Nuts flying everywhere. Oh my god, I forgot I have nuts in these things. I should probably take the belts out. Yep, I know the exchange of knowledge and just the general QA and having a live help. I know that helps a lot of people. That's why I do this. So, yeah. I have no problem doing these as long as people keep watching them. Okay, belts are out. Save the belts. Hopefully I didn't trim them too short to put them back in and be a pain in the butt. Okay, let's take the gantry off. Oh yeah, it uses the little screws. For a first build, the V1 is actually the simplest at this time. Because the V2 is... the gantry on the V1 and the V2 are pretty much the same, but the Z is a lot simpler on the V1. The Vzero is a simpler build, but a more complicated build because you have to follow the order of operations in the manual. And it's so small, you don't really have a lot of room to work with when it comes to like wiring and whatnot. Whereas the V1 has more room to play around with. Like in reality, I think it's like the V1.5 is probably the easiest 400 to build. But that's an old design. We're up to 1.8. Forgot how many little M2 screws we use in this thing. There we go. Gantry's out. Put that on the floor for now. Camera 2. So I'm not going to take the rails off. I'm not going to go through that much of a teardown. Why are you moving? Quit moving. Oh my god. Where's my Allen key? The joys of a printed handle. No, that ain't the right one. That ain't the right one. Oh, there it is. Technical difficulties. There we go. There we go. Okay, back to work. So many Allen keys. Is the V2.4 better than the V1? So I'm just going to say V1, V2. Print quality between the two, you're going to be, the average person probably won't notice a difference because they use the same gantry now, they use the same hot end assembly now, same extruder. The only big difference between the V2 and the V1 is the fact that the V2 has a moving gantry and the V1 has a moving bed. So personally, if you were not going to print a lot, you wanted a simpler printer, I would go with the V1. If you wanted a workhorse, especially something that you want to print lots of stuff fast, because you will be able to go a little bit faster with the V2, simply because it's got a lower center of mass, and you want to run faster accelerations and whatnot, I would go with the V2. It's really, at this point, they're so close, it's a personal preference thing. I have two V2s, I don't have a V1. I turned my one V1 into a V2 because it was so big. Making it a V2, or keeping it a V1 would be detrimental. That's why Tallboy is a V2. It was originally a V1, but you should have seen it when it was printing, because it wobbled like mad. So. Yeah, the Vzero is complicated because of its size. Like, simply the fact that we used 15-15, and there are no post-assembly 15 and 15 nuts, and you kind of have to put everything together in the exact order of operations, is the big downside to the Vzero, unfortunately. Plus, we built it as compact as we could, so there's really not a lot of free room in there, and that's by design. It was designed to be the most space-efficient, like, small, compact printer, and cheap. I know some people keep bringing up comparing it to a Prusa Mini. Its actual quote-unquote design competition is the dice. So that would be the printer you would want to compare it to, not the Prusa Mini. Because the dice is, it's over 1,000, I think, new. It's got all custom machine parts, whereas this is all off the shelf. Pretty much a bigger print volume, pretty much the same size, and much cheaper. The Vzero is a great little desktop printer. Like, if you have like a little work studio and you print like minis or whatever, and you just want something that you can just keep at your desk, is quiet, won't shake your desk while it's printing, and you can just throw a file on it, let it print while you're working on your computer. It's a great printer for that. Or for kids, because it's small and simple. Well, simple once it's up and running. You can panel everything in and make it relatively safe, especially if you go with a external power brick and keep all the high voltage out of the printer itself. Put a bottom panel on it. You can build it as a pretty kid-safe printer, because everything's enclosed basically. But it's still homemade. Like, there are no safety certificates on it. Okay, so I'm going to try and not lose all my ball bearings this time, because I am not taking these carriages off, and I don't have the little red stoppers anymore. Those are long gone. So I'm just going to throw some zip ties on this, and call it a day. So that's that one. I'm going to have fun going through all these screws. This is what we're up to so far. Oh yeah, this is garbage too. Okay, back to the printer. AB motors, AB motors. Yeah, I'm running out of room. Like, I've got pan and tilt here. I've got my desk here. So I got the V2, another V2. Alright, another V2. Vzero sits down here on one of those Costco shelves, and I got my workbench. So I'm kind of running out of room for printers at this time. Yeah, dropping a Z assembly, a Z assembly isn't fun. I think my worst was assembling. I can't remember which one it was, but I had my my hot end. I think it was 2.2. I had my hot end all built on the gantry, and I picked it up, and I forgot that I didn't have the idlers on, and the whole hot end and carriage flew off the end and hit the ground. Nothing broke, luckily. Oh yeah. So there's a little bit of sacrilege here. I do have some Phillips head screws in this build because 35 mils on Canada Prime at the time for M3 were stupid, so I went with flatheads because I didn't feel like waiting. Now that was 6 months ago. I could have ordered some by then, but you don't see the M3s, so the M3 35s. So who cares if they're flathead? Yo, Jake from State Farm. Attaching the Vzero like a picture frame. So unfortunately, the Midwest Rep Fest didn't happen because of well, you know why. But the plan originally was to debut the Vzero at the Midwest Rep Fest, and we were going to have a cube of Vzeros, or I don't know, a decahedron or whatever. We're just going to stack a bunch of them together. That was the original plan, but unfortunately, certain global pandemics happened and scrapped that. I can't see a link to that, Jessica. But if it's got 2209s, oh, it's an SKR 1.3. Oh, yeah, that's I don't have one on hand right now. It's in something, but yeah, the SKR 1.3 is the one, and 1.4 are like the recommended boards for the V1 and V2 at this time. Put that down. Close-up cam. Oh, why is it facing up? Well, if it's got 2209s, right, I see no reason, it's probably a good board. Like, we base everything around the SKR 1.3 and 1.4 because they're common, we know they work, they're relatively cheap, and they're globally sourceable, so that's kind of what our default is. But as long as the MCU and the board itself is supported by Clipper, and you know the pinout, you can pretty much use any board you want to with Clipper. And then that's just a matter of installing the copying over the Voron configs and you're good to go. So it's really not super complicated. I'm also taking this apart just to see if there's any wear. I don't have a super crazy amount of hours on this thing, but as far as I know, this is the oldest one to be taken apart. I don't think any of the other ones have been fully taken apart. So it's just kind of good to see if there's any damage or, you know, parts breaking or anything like that after a while. And so far everything's looking good. I haven't noticed any cracked or damaged parts, so means the design's good. Okay, little NEMA 14. And just compare NEMA 17, NEMA 14. So, little bit little. This is going to come apart in a couple hours, and it's going to take a few streams to put this back together. It's going to be fun. And it's going to be fun when we get halfway through the build and I forgot to put an M3 nut somewhere in a frame. Because we know that's going to happen. We got no exploded bearings yet either, so that's good. That's a good sign. Yeah, parts are good. In the garbage. All the T-nuts. Okay, I guess motors next. Yeah, okay, let's take this back panel off. Reindeer or Fushi bearings? I think I use Fushi. Yeah, they're Fushi. Fushi. Fushi? Fushi. And then the tooth idlers that you do need, I am using pouch ones. I'm not using the Gates ones. Well, and they don't have any. They're still spinning freely, so I'm not worried about them so far. How did I get this in here? Did I take the motor out? I think I took the motor out. Take the motor out. Shoot. There we go. That motor out. So yeah, my back panel is printed, and what I did was one, I forgot a hole. We moved the Z end stop, so kind of hacked that in there, and then to make it look somewhat professional-ish, I sprayed it with bed liner, so it would have a somewhat textured finish to kind of hide the fact that it's a printed. But it is ABS, so if you're wondering how strong ABS is, like, there we go. Yeah, see? It's printed with like really low infill. And just sprayed with bed liner. So in the garbage. I got bed liner on my frame now. Crud. Okay, make sure I reuse that then. Or that goes same spot. Yeah, this is like another problem. I didn't I didn't have the nut installed to screw this in. So I literally just had this thing zip tied to the frame. Yeah, totally professional. Will that fit through the hole? Shoot. Yep. Yeah, that's the old pocket watch mount as well. That's why it's garbage, like it's old style. I'm trying to remember how the bet went together, because I know there's a fun order of operations to it. So I know we're going to have fun taking this apart and putting it back together at some point. Yep, build area of the Vzero is 120 millimeters cubed. If you were to scale it up, I wouldn't go above 170, because that would just mean getting 50 millimeter longer extrusions and rails and longer belts. But it's not meant to be a big printer. Flex plate. So let's take the bed off. Which, oh yeah, mine screws in from the bottom. I forgot I did that, which means I gotta move this up. Manual spin. So I don't know, actually I haven't looked at it, what we decided on final, but the original design for the bed was the screws would come up from the bottom and screw into the bed, versus most where the screws come down into a counterbore hole. I don't know if we stuck with that or not, but mine screw in from the bottom. I think we stuck with that. I can't, I'm not 100% sure. It's been a while since I looked at the Vzero manual, because I only looked at it when it first came out and went, oh, that's cool. And then I looked over at my completed Vzero and went, cool. Oh, okay. So now, if I'm not mistaken, these are not, yeah, the M's are the 7 millimeter. These don't come apart, so hopefully I can, gosh, I'm probably gonna have to cut this one. Maybe not. Because I can't get the prongs to go through this. I might have to, I don't want to cut them, because they're trimmed to length already. Come on. See if I can just kind of mush them back open, pull the wire out. There we go. And same with this guy, it's got connectors on it. Trying to reuse stuff so I have an easier time putting this back together. There we go. Oh, now I know Nemgria's YouTube account. Make sure you haven't been spamming any of my videos. There we go. And another thing, I've been naughty. It doesn't have a thermal fuse or ground. So I'm going to have to put one of those on these as well. So I can cover that in the video. That can go there. Take my springs out. And now I gotta start taking the bed itself apart. Norman, yes, this is a slightly out of date V0 that I need to do a few changes on and upgrade to current release parts. So I am tearing it apart and rebuilding it. In reality, I'm tearing it apart so I can take the video, run it backwards, and release that as the V0 assembly video. Because then I actually don't have to build one. I can just play this backwards, and it's how to build a V0. Yeah, like some of the changes are between the parts I have and the release parts. Ooh, I hope I printed it. Like it's a really small difference, but for example, this is the front bed part on this guy that I'm taking apart, and the final release part has some. It's got some chamfers on it. It looks a little bit better, but other than that, they're pretty much they're functionally the same. That's the kind of upgrades I'm doing. I'm changing pre-release to release parts, basically. It's nothing major for the most part. Oh yeah, I'm flipping this around and I forgot I don't have front end stops on these carriages. Let me get some zip ties in a second. Because I really don't want to be chasing down, I think 1.7 or 1.6 millimeter ball bearings or something stupid like that. Why so many different lengths of bolts? We have been standardized. We have an internal, like, standardized parts list of what the Voron crib contains. So most Vorons pretty much all use the same parts, and we pull from the same bill of materials, or we try to within reason. The reason you have a lot of parts is because in some locations you either have to counterbore deeper, which means the part that's being screwed down won't be as strong. You won't have as much plastic there holding the part in, or you have to make the part thicker, which you might not be able to due to interference with other parts. So sometimes you have to use multiple different sizes of screws. For the most part, though, what you can do is, this is what I normally do. Now, granted, I have access to Fastenal at work, so I can just get whatever, but what you can do is buy these like kits that have a bunch of random different sizes, and they usually have like 20 of the nominal sizes. So buy a kit or two, and then just look at the ones where you need like 100 of them and just buy those separate. So I have boxes of those random kits. that I just kind of keep stock of. M3, M5, button head, flat head, whatever. Yeah, like for example, in the bed here, like the screws I'm taking out, if they were longer, they would hit other screw heads. And if they were shorter, you wouldn't have as much strength holding your frame together, your bed together. So it's kind of like a damned if you do, damned if you don't type situation. Sorry, trying to keep track of Discord and stream. If you're trying to talk to me directly, do it on stream, please. Okay, so what else is holding this in? Oh, I got screws from the back, don't I? Yes, I do. Oh, God. Every time I flip this thing, I got M3 nuts going flying everywhere. Breaking free the pillow blocks. When I get to it, I don't have it. Do I have a spare one? I know I have some somewhere. Oh, okay. So these ones are. I have a bunch of these because we changed designs at one point. But with the pillow block, are these ones? Yeah. So when you get them, so when you get them, you'll see it's kind of like that, and there you got a bearing in here that spins, right? You know, oh hey, it spins. Okay, the thing is though, they also do this. So they pivot, so they allow for some misalignment because it'll find its home. Okay, the thing is when it's brand new, they get pressed into position, so the machine presses them in, and then they just throw them in a box. So you have to kind of give it a good bend right off the bat, or you just put like a screwdriver through it, and then just kind of work it in, and then it just then after that, then it's more free when it comes to self-aligning. Yeah, it's all covered in grease. So yeah, that's what breaking it. It's like basically breaking it in, because they don't do that in the factory. They just jam it in, throw it in a box, and ship it. Hallelujah. Now can I take the bed out? Maybe. Oh yeah. Guess it would help if I took the lead screw nut assembly off. There we go. All the nuts, oh my god. I'm going to be chasing these forever. Okay, you know what? Screw it. I'm not taking this part apart. Okay, I'm not going to show you how to put two screws in. I'm just going to keep this together. I'm sure everyone's smart enough to figure that part out. Oh yeah, I gotta take the pillow block off the bottom. Oh yeah, it's got a set screw. Where's the little one? There we go. Yeah, so this is the pillow block that we use. Actually, I didn't even think I broke this one free. It was straight enough. Huh. But yeah, you would basically go in there with an Allen key or a screwdriver and just kind of give it a, let it, move it around, make sure it moves freely. I'm running low on M540s. So YouTube is giving me a warning saying it's stuttering, but I don't see it stuttering. So if it's stuttering, just let me know, guys. And then I know you can order them, but if you need to hack away your, pretty sure you still need to do it, hack away your T-nut, brass nut portion, you can do that with a file. It's brass, it's relatively soft. Almost getting there. Almost to the point where we're taking apart the frame, which I'm not looking forward to because that means I have to put the frame back together. Okay. Hey, it's still straight. Yeah, we're still good. Sweet. What would you change the parts from? I honestly, really, there's not much. Like, you're still using NEMA 14s. It's still a 3D printer. So like, going crazy. Okay, yeah, if you use PC parts, but it's so small, I doubt you'll like never. I could print 100 parts or 100 things, 100 benchies with ABS parts, and then 100 benchies with PC parts. The same settings, and I guarantee you if I mix them all up, you'll never be able to tell which one was printed with what. Like in terms of what's holding the machine back, it's not much. Okay, I gotta take these little guys off. Like the machine has no drawbacks based on its current design with its current configuration. Like, obviously, it's using NEMA 14, so you can't run it as hard as a V2. You can't push 10K acceleration at 300 millimeters a second. You're going to start skipping steps. But if you bump it up to NEMA 14s or 17s, then it's being bigger, and then, well, hey, let's bump it up to MGN 9s, and next thing you know, you're building a V1. So really, the only change I would make to it would just magically make it easier to assemble without changing any of the design, which that ain't gonna happen. So. Well, it might change. I'm not a designer. But you know what I mean. Hopefully. But yeah, you can go with the Teflon coated lead screw. One thing is like an integrated lead screw for the Z. But it would have to be a custom, like pancake stepper based lead screw. Because there's really not a lot of room under the hood to fit like a full NEMA 17 with integrated lead screw. So that would be one thing I would like, because then we wouldn't have this whole assembly that we have currently with the little belt and whatnot. That would be the one big change I would like to see for like a V0.1. Just make it easier. Well, Teflon is PTFE, and the issue with PTFE is once it gets to above 240 Celsius, it starts off-gassing all kinds of nasty stuff. So unless your lead screw is hitting 240 degrees Celsius, having a Teflon lead screw won't affect anything. Like, there's no harm to it. Because it has to start off-gassing. So if your printer's on fire, then it's a problem. And I don't think you'll be worrying about what your lead screw is made out of when your printer is on fire. I haven't used the Palm lead screw assembly. I think they're supposed to be a little bit better, but I haven't used them, so I can't comment on it. I'm not really sure what others have said. If it's like a couple bucks, yeah, why not? Any issues with using a Duet for a controller? Space. Good luck trying to... you're going to have to get creative. You're going to have to move some stuff to the back. Use an external power brick maybe, depending on how you plan on powering everything. But remember... Damn it. I'm going to be chasing... I need a magnet. I need one of those little floor sweeping magnets tool shops have. So this is an Esquire Mini E3. A Duet is taking up so much room that now you don't have room for your power supply underneath. So you're going to have to get creative, download the CAD file, and start playing around. But that would be the big problem with using a Duet 2, for example, is simply room. The Duet's much bigger. Like, I have a picture somewhere on my desktop of a Taco Raven under one of these. Like, just mocking up how big it would be. And it's there's not a lot of free room left. Put it that way. Okay, let's get this E3 out of here before something hits it. So for attaching this to the plate, what you can do is you can buy little kits of them, and they're little nylon standoffs. So you install these little standoffs on your SKR, and then that way you can just drill some holes in your ABS bottom plate, and that way it's not sitting directly on it. It's spread, it's spaced out, and you can screw it down. So you can just buy those little kits on Amazon. They're just nylon standoffs. It's like motherboard standoffs essentially, just made out of nylon. So put that over there so I don't break it. Take the skirts off. I need to print new skirts. I forgot to print new skirts because these ones have a little bit of stringing and I don't like them, so I'm just going to print new ones because screw it. I've got a case of ABS still. Any words of wisdom for building a new Voron? Read the documentation. Go to the Discord. If you're not on the Voron Discord, you should join the Voron Discord. So go to Voron Design, and I believe there should be a link right on the main page or under Community or something. Join the Voron Discord because we have like 7,000 people there now, and there's channels for different areas. There's channels for different questions and queries and whatnot. And there's pretty much every question that you can think of has already been answered. And I know Discord search isn't the greatest, but it still has a decent search. So if you got a question, ask, search for it. Odds are it's been resolved and there's a solution. And also don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel for helpful tips and hints and other projects that I'm working on. Is it possible to use the standard hot end? No, it is not. 1 second here. I know I have one somewhere. So the reason you cannot use a standard V6 is height. Because everything, the nozzle location, wow, I gotta clean that screen. It's getting some, 1 second here. Do I have a paper towel? Get a little bit of that lens flare off this guy. There we go. Okay. So the 0 position is based off the end of the nozzle for all the hot ends. So the hot end position, the nozzle, is the same for all 3 of the hot ends supported by the V0 and all Vorons actually. So we can only adjust what's above. Now the problem is, if you go with the groove mount, as you can see, it sits up much higher and would actually be sticking up above the current design of the hot end, and would require quite a big change to the design. And long story short, it just wouldn't work. So we have to go with the screw style one. Now you can get these from Triangle Labs if you're looking for a cheaper alternative than the official Duet or E3D one. Triangle Labs does make this, and this is a Triangle Labs one. This whole thing's a clone. Triangle Labs homemade heater block, Triangle Labs nozzle, Vicec thermistor. I don't even know what hot end that is. But yeah, it's a matter of size. That's why we had to go with the screw-in style. There's not enough meat in the tool head to make a groove mount. So that's why. Yes, chat rooms are back. What's your ICQ number? Listen to all those screws. Okay, I gotta take these out. Take the feet out. Okay, so theoretically at this point, it's done. Now I gotta take apart the frame. Which means I gotta put the frame back together again. Well, might as well get it over with. Hope I didn't strip any of these screws. Okay, that one's already loose. That's not good. Yeah, that's the problem. All the screws are button head. M3 button head. So when you're putting together any button head screw is more likely to strip than socket head. Oh, I just dropped that in my drawer. So the problem is when you go to tighten it, you really don't want to strip the screw. Now with button head, because it's a thinner head, there's not as much material there, so it's very likely to strip. So whenever you're screwing them in, if you have ball end Allen keys, try not to use ball end. Try and use flat, so like your standard end, not the ball end side, because you'll have more meat connecting and you'll be less likely to strip it, especially with the frame, because once you start stripping screws in the frame, trying to get them out is going to be fun. You basically got to drill out the head of the screw. Now excuse me while I look for my little Allen key that I dropped into a drawer full of keys. Found it. I have stripped screws, and it's not fun trying to drill them out without damaging stuff. One frame. Yeah, I wasn't around for BBS. I got a computer when ICQ was a thing. This panel I gotta keep. This one's actually ABS, so I'm keeping that guy. Why do I keep doing that? Why do I keep doing that? I swear, I'm gonna be finding M3 nuts on the floor for months. Win at it. What was it? It kicks the llama's ass or something like that. Something with a llama. I remember that. That and it had the sickest visualizer. Okay, no screws flying. There we go. Haha. Didn't get me this time. It whips the llama's ass. That's what it is. Using Winamp to listen to your pirated songs that you got off of LimeWire, or not LimeWire. Actual Napster back in the day. Good times. Okay. We have one disassembled V0. So, that's what's left. Got controllers over here, power supply, that. I got all the brand new parts. So we're going with Isun ABS Plus Black, because that's the black I use because I get it by the case. Because I live in Canada and I don't get all the fun stuff. I think it's Kodak Orange for the accents, and I got a new pocket watch. So yeah. So it is a part. So to put together your V0, you're going to load this video up. You're going to download it. And then you're going to open it in some video editing software. And you're going to reverse it and play it backwards. And that is how you build a V0. Thank you and have a great day. Mainsail, the reason I unbuilt it is because people want to see me build one. And it does need some work because it's got pre-production parts on it. I wasn't fully happy with the wiring. It had some issues. So I'm basically fixing a few minor issues and then doing an instructional set of videos on it. That's why. More parts for the garbage bin. Oh yeah, I gotta take apart the pocket watch. Okay, we're not completely done. Yeah, I know I haven't been streaming the past month. It's been summer. I had some vacation time. I redid the patio in my house. Some other stuff. I'm working on another little project. So, figured get back into it with the most requested thing, because I still have that bed flinger, that little crappy little i3 that I never actually finished. But that's been bumped on the back burner for now. Other stuff going on. So I figure go back into the V0 build. I don't know how the heck... Okay. I don't know how this blows people away. I thought this was like common, but you got an Allen key. It works really good with a ball end. And you put the ball end in the hole, your thumb, and then you just spin it. And apparently that blows people's minds. Now, granted, I work in a tool shop and I do this all day, so I have a nice big callus right here from doing that. But you will get a blister there if you just start doing that all willy-nilly for a whole build. Trust me. Okay, I need to get a little bag to put this in, because I don't want to lose this stuff. I know I have one somewhere. Yeah, that'll do. No, that won't do. That's got a hole in it. That'll do. Galileo build. I have none of the components for a Galileo, unfortunately. It's on my list of things I want to do. But I haven't gotten around to building one, ordering any. I've barely looked into it for the most part. Down the line, I might swap one of these guys to a Galileo. But I've had zero issues with the afterburners so far, so I think I'm just going to keep them for now. And maybe on a future build or something, I'll put one on. Or I'll just build another tool head and slap it on just because. But at this time, it's not on my radar, unfortunately. I know some people have been asking for that. There already is a build of it, I believe. So there are instructional videos on how to build one. this stuff. Can I get this out? Or is that stuck in there forever? That might be stuck in there forever. Yeah, that's stuck in there forever. Maybe. Yeah, let's see. Yeah, it's out. Oh, and anything that has a heat set insert, don't throw the part out. You can get the heat set inserts out really easily. I'll go over that another day, but you just use your heating iron, and you basically just heat it up, touch your heat set insert, and you can just pivot it out. So make sure you save your heat set inserts, because after you throw away a few parts, you start running low pretty quick. So I just throw them in a box until I get a bunch, and then I'll take out all the inserts at once. Okay. Any difference between your biggest Voron from the medium build and the Vzero? Print quality, I don't have as many hours on the Zero. In terms of like, okay, here's the thing with print quality. Here's why print quality is kind of a thing, but not a thing. If you take the time to learn your printer, learn your settings, tune your slicer, run everything at the right settings, use proper filament, good quality parts, any printer can print a good benchy for the most part. And if I show you a really good benchy, you'd probably never be able to tell what printer it came off of, okay? Yeah, some printers, depending on the fans, you might not be able to get as clean of an overhang, and some printers come with a shitty extruder, so you might have skipping. But if you learn what your printer prints good at, print quality is not a great way to judge a printer, because you can take pretty much any printer and with the right settings and tuning, print a good print. So all Vorons print great, but they all print great in different ways. Like an Ender 3 puts out a good print if you take the time to learn it and fix its, from the factory defects that most of them come with. But it will never print a good benchy at the speeds you can run a Voron at, for example. So it's judging a printer by its quote-unquote print quality is kind of it's a wrong way of looking at it, in my opinion. So okay, so if anyone's curious, let's find out how much all the fasteners on a Vzero weigh. Because why not? So, I'm get an empty one of these. I should have an empty one. Tear. Okay, so all the hardware, minus the hot end fan, so all your fasteners and whatnot on a Vzero come to a total of, why is that saying 20 grams? Oh yeah. What is that? 296. So that's how much all the fasteners on a Vzero weigh. That has zero effect on anything, but now you know. See, we're all learning. Which I'm pretty sure that weighs about as much as an afterburner. Okay, so it's apart. I'm not going to dive into building it now. I got to sort some, organize some stuff. Actually look at the manual, make sure I got everything I need, which I should. But, yeah, it's a relatively short stream compared to the usual ones where I'm up till midnight. So, open floor, I guess. Any questions? Anyone want to see anything, while I'm here? Because I'm good for sticking around if people have questions. Why do I have so much of this stuff? Oh yeah, and another thing, I want to try and figure out a way of mounting this thing. It's like a little $3 shitty webcam that I picked up off AliExpress before everything went to hell. It's USB. and it plugs and unplugs. So I got this little camera module with a super wide angle. It's only like 10 FPS. I want to try and figure out a way to stuff this in the frame somewhere. That's another reason it came apart. What do you do? Okay, so basically when I'm doing a teardown, what I save and what I don't save. I save all the hardware. Obviously, printed parts usually go right into the bin. Like if I'm upgrading like my V1 or my V2 from a 2.2 to a 2.4, basically you keep hardware. Anything printed is pretty much in the bin, and you just go from there. I wouldn't be throwing out screws and nuts, for example. How many people I got? I got around 50 people. It's good. I hope you all enjoyed the stream tonight. It was a simple stream. The same with like when I started the V2 build. I started that with a stream of tearing apart a 2.2. So same thing here. So we torn it apart. And now we're going to build it right back up. Starting next Saturday, we'll get the frame together, and we're just going to follow the manual. Because I've never actually built the Voron following a manual. So this should be fun. So let's see here. Are you planning any closed loop stepper implementation? No. I know Big Tree Tech has that closed loop stepper. The thing is, with a stepper, you're losing steps if you're colliding into stuff, or your printer, you're not feeding your motors the right amperage. I haven't had a layer skip on my V226 over here in thousands of hours. So would it be worth adding closed loop steppers? I wouldn't gain anything. Like the thing with closed loop is it's really good for CNC and stuff where you're putting a shit ton of force on a tool head. But with a 3D printer, if you're skipping steps, you're either running it faster than you should be, or you're colliding into stuff, so you don't have Z hop on. Turn Z hop on. That I've seen so many prints get failed from nozzle strikes, hitting parts that curl up. Turn Z hop on. It like CNC machines, when they're cutting, they don't drag the tool head across what they're cutting. You shouldn't be dragging your nozzle across your print while you're printing. That's just from my background in working in a tool shop. So turn Z hop on. Bring your nozzle up and do your travel move, then come down and continue doing whatever you're doing. But yeah, closed loop steppers, I see them as kind of overkill for a 3D printer because they add a lot of cost without a lot of benefit. Now, if you want to do it, go ahead. Like, I'm not saying don't do it, but I'm just saying the cost to reward is pretty small, in my opinion. Will there be a 2-to-1 extruder to the Vzero? Are you talking about like if dual feed? You could theoretically put like a Y. I have one somewhere. Yeah, right here. Triangle Labs makes this little Y splitter where you have 2 filaments go in, 1 comes out, and you could literally stick this on top and just feed 2 filaments in with a extruder on each side of it and do extrusion that way. The only problem is you would need a board that supports 5 drivers, and you would have to tune it. If I want to use the copperhead as my extruder, since it's cheap. Okay, so the copperhead is kind of like a weird mosquito / V6. You lose your single-handed nozzle changes, but you gain the bimetallic heat break and rigid mount. So it's kind of like a win some, lose some. I don't think we have You would have to mount it like a V6. You have to go groove mount because we don't have any of the Vorons natively support the copperhead mounting solution, the rigid mount, I believe, at this time. So, yeah, I seen the teaching tech video on it, but basically that video boiled down to, hey, they're kind of as quiet. I think they're a little bit louder. And wow, I can smash my tool head with a mallet. Most people have printers that have plastic parts. I'm not smashing my printer with a mallet, so the fact that it can recover from me smashing my printer with a mallet doesn't really gain me anything because I don't smash my printer with a mallet. So yeah, closed loop steppers, I run your motors at the right voltage, slice right, and you won't skip layers. Most times I see skip layers from just, I'm feeding my motors 0.2 amps when they want 0.4 amps. But yeah. That's a tangent. Plus, how much are they? I think they're quite expensive for what you're getting. Bed slinger. Why are we talking about bed slingers? Let me catch up on chat here. Yeah, if you're gonna go closed loop, like, just get servos. Like, servos are a thing. Go servo. It's like mid-range options, basically. Yeah, like it's like CNC machines. Look at industrial CNC. They use servos. Like closed loop steppers are kind of like dragging a stepper into the modern age or neutering a servo. I don't know where my hammer is. I had a nice little mallet. But yeah. Okay, since we're just killing time, I think I'm just going to run till probably like 11:30. I'm going to show you how to easily remove heat set inserts. Does the mosquito variant actually prevent heat creep beyond the fan? So, okay, so what's a mosquito variant? So people keep saying the dragon is a way of getting around the patent for the mosquito. China doesn't give a crap about patents. The dragon is a copy of the Fetus hot end, which they use kind of a similar design of a thin surgical or stainless or titanium steel tube with a chunk of copper on one end for the hot end, or for the heat melt zone, and a chunk of copper above it for the heat break. And they just use a different design of heater block and frame. So that part is the same. So the design itself is a very good design of the way of keeping the heat low, keeping a solid or a very sharp heat break between your hot and your cold side. But the heat travels up the filament, so you want to try and minimize as much mass. So I've used dragons and I've used mosquitoes, legit mosquitoes and Triangle Labs dragons, and they perform exactly the same. I haven't noticed any difference between the two. So when it comes to the other clones, the only thing I'm worried about is just design issues, like material issues. If they're using the same materials, they should function pretty much the same for the average person. It's mostly a quality thing. Like if you got where your filament goes through, if it's all burred up because it's made in a crappy machine shop in China, you're not going to extrude well. Okay, let me grab a random part here. I had more parts. Yeah, so I got a random part for my scrap bin here. It's got some heat set inserts in it, so I'm going to show you how to easily remove a heat set insert. So you got your heat set. It's in the plastic, and all you do is you take your iron at its normal temperature, you heat it up, and you just pop it out. Now keep some pliers nearby. Yeah, so just heat it up and just rotate. Boom. That's how you take a heat set insert out. One more time, heat it up And you just rotate, pop it out. So there, that's how you take out heat set inserts. Try and save them, because yeah, you buy them by the 100 from China, but they go quick. They go by real quick, trust me. I've already had to order more. And that's because I threw a bunch out because I'm like, oh, I got 100 of them. And you scrap a part that has 2 of them in it, and next thing you know, you scrap 10 parts, there goes 20 of them, there goes, 20, a good chunk of them. So, yeah, try to save your heat set inserts. And then it's just plastic on it, so when you melt them back in, it just goes away. It's not a big issue. Hot, 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 hot. In the bin. The Teaching Tech channel, I've watched. He's got some good stuff on there. I got nothing against him. Yeah, his channel is very good for, I find, like, people who just bought an Ender 3, for example. But that's his audience, so I'm not going to fault him for catering to what his audience is. It's his audience. So yeah. So I think we're going to call it at 11, so 4 more minutes, unless something big comes up. But, yeah, thank you for joining me tonight. I hope you had fun. Hope you had, educating, watching me tear apart a printer, because we're going to build it next week. So Saturday night, 8 or 9 o'clock p.m. Eastern. I know it's Saturday night, late night streams. Unfortunately, I work afternoons during the weekday, and I'm watching a 2-year-old in the morning, so that's really the only time I can stream. So if you miss it, you're going to have to watch the VOD. I do keep the VODs up on my YouTube channel indefinitely. So if you miss a stream, you can always catch up on it at a later date. Don't forget to like the video, comment. I try to make it a point to reply to as many comments and questions that I can have. And don't forget to subscribe, because it helps the channel out for, I don't know, I just say that because all YouTubers say that now. I don't actually get paid by YouTube yet. I'm not making any money off this other than donations, which donations have paid for the camera you're seeing this on right now in the cam link. Well, paid for a portion of it, and it's helped. So any donations I do get go straight into the Voron fund or the streaming equipment. But yeah, hope you all have a great night. Make sure you wash your hands, cover your faces, and take care, everyone. See you next week. Hey, big doggo. Say hi to everyone. Oh, pupper. Kisses? Oh, good doggo. Okay, good night.